Hey yo, this is another episode of the Steven from the Old Time Podcast. Listen to my dad, he's awesome.
For a very special episode, why not have a very, very special guest? Could you please state your name, sir?
J Rhymes, what's up?
I want you to ask me, Jay, how my weekend was.
No,
This is the part where you're supposed to say, how was your weekend?
no. How was your weekend?
It was phenomenal because I was in Toronto to watch Oasis, and I had a fantastic, fantastic experience.
You know what's funny about actually you mentioned that. Um, the singer from 18 Visions was there too. I,
Oh, really?
yeah, I saw it on his story. So,
Man, it was, look, we're a music podcast, right? I just need to be able to express how. Look, I don't understand the people that don't like Oasis. I do understand them a little bit, but just the magnitude of their music for me, and just being able to be there after so long of them not being together and really just forgetting about the band. And then after, thinking of growing up and my cousin showing me them and listening to them in his car, and him giving me the albums and just like going through like all the singles and stuff like that, just the emotion of just being there. And you're somebody that probably, maybe not with Oasis, but a different band probably gives you that same feeling, or would give you that same feeling. But it's crazy how music really puts me into a very happy, exciting, positive, environment and emotion. And just for me, like if you want to see me happy, you just put me in a spot with music, and I just like, dude, singing along. Like it started raining, and I mean raining for like an hour, and I spent maybe about anywhere between $500 and $600 on merch. Like I had posters with me, and they were getting rained on, and I wasn't in a bad mood.
which is rare because
I'm always in
you're
a bad
always
mood.
you're always in a bad mood.
Coming from the guy that's always in a bad mood as well, and that's probably just the Italian thing.
What,
Um,
what are you gonna do? Well, an interesting precursor to things to come. But for now, I guess let's get right to it, right?
yeah, we're gonna review three albums, two hip hop albums and one album that
Wait, wait, don't just
we
two
wait.
two albums, two hip hop albums by two legends, and one other album. That we'll just leave it at that. We'll let them cook in suspense. You know what I'm saying?
Wonderful. And you know what's great about this episode? We're doing three albums. I don't really like to do three albums. We're doing it. It's actually was your idea to do this. This had nothing to do with me. I just went off what you brought to the table, and it made sense being music lovers and doing three albums from three people, or whatever it's going to be, that have been in music for 30 years plus. So it all made sense, right?
Absolutely. And this is two of the seven records on the Mass Appeal release. I did listen to Slick Rick's album. Interesting record. Because that's there's only three of the seven that are out. That's Slick Rick, Ray, and Ghostface. So I don't know what album's coming next, but uh, it's going. It's happening. You just got to see where things play out, man. With that. Um, but with that being said, are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Are we gonna do Ray or Ghost first?
We're gonna go with Rain. The reason we're gonna go with Ray is Ray's been out first. It's been out the longest. It's been out for a time frame that I'm able to listen to it, go back to it, put it aside, and then re-go back to it. And you did the same. You actually really did the same, because I remember we spoke about this record, and we're talking about Raekwon, The Emperor's New Clothes. And if you listen to the previous podcast, I kind of shed light on how I felt about it, but I find that my feelings have changed with time. And that's the beauty of listening to music, because the first few times you listen to it, you could hate it, you could love it, and then it'll change in a couple of months or a month or in a couple of weeks, depending what you're going through when you're listening to it. So I know you,
Grows on you. You know,
yeah,
that's the important thing. It grows
yes.
on you.
So let's get to Raekwon, the Emperor's New Clothes. I want to hear your thoughts on this, okay? Because my thoughts at the beginning were, it is what it is. It's an okay album. There's songs that I skip. There's songs that I listen to. I expect a lot from my top 5 favorite rapper. That
Really?
it is what it is. Raekwon's been in my top 5 for the last 15 years,
Okay. Fair enough.
right?
You're Raekwon, and in my top five, it's Method Man. So
But that's a good point, because after we're done reviewing the 2 albums, we're going to talk about Method Man, because he comes through these 2 albums a numerous amounts of time. So, how do you feel about the album? What's your
um,
first listen, and then how did it grow on you, and where do you feel at this very moment with that album?
I mean, I think it's a solid album for considering that his last record was 2017. Um, and this is the Raekwon that we got, man. You know, and I think like because I'm gonna be honest, I only remember liking a couple tracks off of The Wild, and there's way more songs on this record that I like a lot, like more than that record. Unfortunately, not to like dump on it or whatever. Like it was a cool record for. I think it was an interesting time too, you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like even just listening back to like some of like my couple favorites off of the record, I'm like, man, this is really dope. Really dope. I mean, we've heard the chef, do like some verses, here and there, you know, but definitely a solid, well-rounded record. And if this is the best that Raekwon can do, I'm happy with it. Personally, I'm not gonna be too picky about it,
Okay.
because he doesn't have to do it. Same thing with Ghost, um, you know. So
Do you expect something in particular when a Raekwon drops an album? Do you hold him to a higher extent? Because if we're being honest here, Only Built for Cuban Links 1, Only Built for Cuban Links 2 are some of the greatest hip hop albums I've ever heard, if
for
not
sure,
one of the greatest hip hop albums I've ever heard.
stacked. Both albums are 100% stacked. I mean, like honestly, you don't know what to expect, and I try to keep my expectations like I don't want to say super low, but like I feel like if I do that, I'll be a little bit more surprised. And I was actually really surprised with this record. Um, a buddy of mine did say that he did enjoy the Ghostface record more than Raekwon, and I said, bro, you got to go listen to that again. You got to go listen to Raekwon's album again. Um, and I think for him, it's just more about performance and stuff like that. So, and that's why it's interesting to do these 2 records because they're like back to back, pretty much, like coming out. So, I mean, uh, yeah, I mean, honestly, I had low expectations and I was more pleasantly surprised with everything. So, I dig it.
So, to your point, the to the first time I heard it, like I mentioned, it was okay. But going back to it after a month and a bit of it being out, I kind of my expectations dropped because I knew what the album sounded like. And I told myself, I'm like, look, listen, this dude's been doing it for 30 years plus. Okay. First of all, when you listen to Raekwon, I know you're an artist, you might hear it differently, but when I listen to it, like it doesn't take me 2 listens to be able to understand what he's saying. Raekwon is very detailed in his own way within his lyrics. Okay. And like I could go back to Cuban Links 1 and 2 or Immobilarity and Lex Diamond story and still not understand what he's saying. You know what I mean? Because he's detailed in his very own way. There's that slang to it that's very, it's precise, but it's kind of like it takes time for you to absorb it and understand it, right? And his music is, and to that extent, it's very, you know what, this is how I'm gonna portray it to you, and you know what, I don't want you to understand it. I don't, right? He's rapping that way for himself, right? Because that's the only way he knows how to rap, right? That's how he gets himself across. So I went back to it, and a lot more tracks stood out to me where I enjoyed them more. Okay. Like Bear Hill, you know, really good way to start off the album, right? That beat is a thumpering beat that Raekwon shines on, you know. Pomegranate with Inspect the Deck and Carlton Fisk. At first, I was like, yeah, it's all right. I enjoy it more. I understand the feeling of what he was trying to do with that song being third on the album. Now, for skits, I'll be super honest with you. I don't need skits on here. I don't think the skits really make sense, and I don't think it's necessary for them to be
The
on
one was
here.
funny though. The I think it was pause or something like that.
No, that pause is on the Ghost.
Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, I got it mixed up. Jumping ahead there. But I mean, yeah, it definitely adds unnecessary filler sometimes to albums that don't need it. You know.
Right? So, like, if you remove that, I enjoy the record a lot more. Okay. Now, there's a couple of tracks on here, and these guys are never going to give you 10 songs. They're always going to give you an abundance amount of songs, being at 17 tracks. And I understand more that he was trying to give us something very Wu-Tang esque with the featurings, okay, and with the skits. So I get it a lot more. I just still find it's an okay album, just way more enjoyable right now. And something I'll say now with the next record we're going to review in a couple of minutes, I kind of go back to this and be like, okay, I get it right now. Raekwon is Raekwon, Ghost is Ghost. I enjoy Raekwon more because he's kind of never changed.
Sure.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying within that. Like, like Immortality, his raps were just phenomenal, even though it didn't sound like Cuban Links. Lex Diamond, his storytelling on there was phenomenal. It didn't sound like Cuban Links. This album doesn't sound like Cuban Links, and it's never going to sound like Cuban Links. You know what I mean? I like Raekwon structured. I find this isn't structured. It's just songs.
Okay.
And something else I want to add is, and this is not going to change for me with this record, is I just find the production is weak. And there's times where it's really weak. Like, look, some songs on here, like, what's that song? The Heavies. I'm not a big fan of the production on there. 600 School. I'm not a big fan of the production on there. Deborah not.
That's a Swiss Beats joint. So I mean, the fact that it's Swiss beats. I mean, it's like, damn. I mean, like, I think I powered through it at least with that song. Like, you know, but I understand though, and I'll touch on 600 School in a minute when we discuss top threes and all that. So
Yeah. And look, I expect a lot more when Raekwon and Ghostface are on the same track, and they're on the same track 3 times on here. Get Out of Here, Mac and Lobster, and 600 School. And I expect those songs to be the best songs on the record. Okay. And if we remember Wu Massacre, if we remember the Bulletproof Wallets of the world. And if we remembered just anything they've always been on, it was always the standouts. They are not the standouts on here. And
Really
they,
interesting.
they fell flat to me. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're not interesting.
All right, so let's get the top three then.
Okay, so top three songs. I'm gonna go because I know you have a lot more to say, and I don't have a lot to say about my top three. I'm gonna go with Pomegranate for sure. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. Uh, man, I'm gonna go with. Uh, Bear Hill because I enjoy the way the album starts, and you know what? I'm gonna go with the Amerta with Nas, and I didn't like that song at all the first time I heard. Like I really detested it. I just find now I enjoy it a lot more, and it's just with time, right? But Nas doesn't come as strong as I wish Nas came. Pause.
Um, you know, fair enough. So and then top three albums by the chef.
It's gonna go with number one, Cuban Links.
Sure.
Number two, Cuban Links 2. And number three, Shaolin versus Wu Tang. And I'm gonna just touch on Shaolin versus Wu Tang really quick. I think that album is phenomenal. To really come right after Cuban Links 2 and be able to give us such exquisite storytelling with great production. It's some of my favorite, like there's songs on there that are some of my favorite Raekwon songs to this day. That song with Rick Ross and Ghostface, for fuck's sake. If that song didn't exist, I would despise Rick Ross to this day. But because of that song, made me invest in Rick Ross.
Okay. All right.
Let's hear your top three songs on the album.
I can respect this. So we'll do top three records. Um, we'll do. Um, I mean, you already kind of said pretty much. You know what I was gonna say. Cuban Link 1 and 2, but I will do
Wow.
Immobilarity. Yo, I found this fun fact. I was in City Island by the Bronx, and my boy dragged me out of his house to go walk and do something. And by the time we got to where we were at, I saw the cassettes on the sidewalk, and this was actually sealed. I just opened it. I'm gonna open it anyway because when I go to see the chef in December on the 30-year anniversary tour of Only Built for Cuban Link, I'm gonna have him sign this, and hopefully I'll get lucky and get some other things for him to sign. And yeah, so I would say those three records are really solid. Three records at least on the new joint. I mean, you already kind of shit on two of the ones that I actually really liked, which was
I didn't shit on them, but yes, continue.
600 School. But here's the thing, I like it because I feel like I'm trying to look past like this. I guess I don't want to say the subparness of the beat, because it is Swiss beats. You know what I'm saying? So, and then it's kind of a Wu Massacre track to a degree. You know what I'm saying? Like with all three of them, I like Method's verse. I like Ghost's lyric. I like the lyrics. I like the rapping on that. So I think that's why I'm gonna give it a pass. As like number three. Number two, yo, I love Mac and Lobster. I I don't I can't believe you don't like that song. But whatever.
I never said I didn't like it. I just said I expected more from it.
I
And
mean, I thought it was a great song, to be honest. But
I wouldn't have ended the album off with Mac and Lobster.
really,
Yeah. I would have ended it off with something else.
I like the
Probably
song.
not something on this album. I would have added a different joint to end the album off.
But the track that we do agree on that is probably, I would say, arguably the hardest song on like in terms of like this is like yo this is the one maybe. I would definitely have to say Pomegranate because that's just like that joint is just crazy. Good
Mm-hmm.
energy on that, you know. And I do like Bear Hill, and I like the the Griselda joint was was dope. So yeah.
Did you think they came at their strongest on there? Do you think Conway, Benny, and Gunn came their strongest on that song, or you think they could have given more?
Who knows when it was done? I mean, like honestly, I haven't like I've listened to a little bit of Benny, I've listened to a little bit of Conway, Gunn. Like I don't know, I can't really say. I don't want to say, oh, it all sounds the same, or like that's not what I'm trying to say, but like I just don't like for me personally, and I used to be such a mark for Conway. Like I mean, like I don't know. I just think after from Kingdom of God, I kind of like just you know like I mean, he was literally dumping from like 2017 to like I mean even before that, but like 2017 to like 2019, 2020, like the dude was like just on another level. Like with the Everybody Is Food tape. So, but anyway, but we're not talking about completely all that. But I think that they gave what they gave, and yeah, that's it. So, but anyway,
Something else I expected more of, but again, I guess I'm a critic and I look into it too much. I think that's my problem because if I really went into stuff really being like, hey, just listen to the record and just take it for what it is, I might enjoy music more. But hey, I've been listening to music for the longest time, so I just think I like being able to understand things and dig deep in within what we're receiving as music listeners. So let's get into album number 2, Ghostface Killah, Supreme Clientele 2. I kind of want to give you the floor for this one to start it off because I don't want to jump in too negatively.
I mean, if that's how you feel, and the only thing I'm gonna say is like, well, I guess what I can say is the first thing I noticed that I wasn't crazy about it was the DJ hype, whatever that was. Like, no, this isn't a mixtape. This is Supreme Clientele too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the mixtape era or whatever, but I guess maybe I just didn't expect hearing like that on a Ghostface joint. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Maybe I could say I could be wrong, and people are like, "Oh, you crazy?" Because like I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know every single Ghostface record to the T, and like he's done a lot of work. You know, um, but and there's more albums I'm familiar with than I'm not. You know what I mean? But like, um, man, I just think some of the record was just like that. Like I think the production honestly was like a little bit less than the Raekwon album. That's why I kind of low key I like the Raekwon album a little bit more. But Ghost is rapping though. That's the thing. Is like I feel like if he had like better beats, I mean, nuts. I think it would really be it would really be something of a record. Now, I don't really even know what more to say about it. There's a couple joints I like about it, you know, like he's definitely rapping for sure, like, but I don't know. But go ahead, and then I have a question for you about both records.
Okay. So Supreme Clientele 2, that's
Yep.
the name of the record. He first put out Supreme Clientele in 2001. the first installment, and we have 22 tracks, 49 minutes, and a bunch of skits. Okay. The intro,
The pause skit was funny.
the pause skit, yeah.
Hilarious. That was, oh my God. I was cracking up
Dude,
listening to that.
as soon as I heard the pause skit, I thought of actually Lukey Cage doing that skit for Ghost. Would make the most sense in the whole entire world.
If he met, like, if Lukey met, like, Iron Man, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he met Tony Starks and did that shit, like, it's all love, Lukey, but you never know. He could be the next one. Nah, I'm just kidding.
But
yeah, but hilarious though. I just thought that was a really good skit. The other skits I kind of like was like, well, whatever. Same thing with like the Raekwon record. You know what I mean? But
unnecessary.
all filler, you know?
Yeah, unnecessary. The intro by Redman, I guess, was cool to start off the record.
Why not have him on the record though? That's
exactly because Buck 50.
This was the other thing I wanted to say about the record. The features, like the fact that Redman's not on here. Raekwon only has one verse, like, on this record, and like Ghost was more on Ray's out. So I kind of thought that was a little bit interesting.
Well, the Raekwon's on the worst song on the album.
And like, unfortunately, like, and like I listened back to it, and I would say like the joint with just Ghost and Meth, like You My Friend, like, I mean, it's a dope joint, but you know, it was just like not the way I thought the album would like really end. You know, kind of like, if we're gonna sit here and say who had a better ending of the record, I'm gonna sit here and tell you Raekwon, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're comparing, absolutely. But to your point on here, and I just want to touch on the intro by Redman. Redman was on Buck 50. Buck 50 was on the first Supreme Clientele. And that was probably one of my favorite songs.
It's one of my favorite songs, too, off of that record. That's a baller record, you know?
And those guys came correct on there. Some of the best rapping I've ever heard any of them do. Like, Redman on there is just annihilates every single human being possible, even Ghost, because Ghost had 2 verses on there, if I'm not mistaken. But I would have liked,
kind of crazy though on that record, I will say.
I would have wished Redman was on here, would have made a lot more sense. But anyways, the album kind of starts off with Iron Man, the second song on here. Like, okay, fuck. This is a cool way to start off your record. Like, this is
strong.
This is Ghostface. Like, hold on a second. If we're listening to Set the Tone and Ghostface Killah's, the album before Set the Tones, Ghost doesn't sound like this on these records. His voice sounds very rugged and old. And I heard the first record on here, Iron Man, and I was kind of like blown away of like, hold on a second. It went in my brain. Is he using AI? Like, why has his voice changed so much? Like he's rapping like early 2000s. And then I saw an interview with Ghost where he said that a lot of the tracks on here were recorded many years ago, that he's just re-put them together.
I don't know.
So
I think it's a waste of. I think it's a a waste of a name for the title, Supreme Clientele 2. It doesn't feel like it, you know.
It doesn't.
And the cover was kind of like
cartoony, made no sense.
It was straight Looney Tunes, like, you know, no depth, you know. So I think, unfortunately, it's one of those things that I don't want to say it was like rushed together, but like, damn, bro, you know, I mean,
like,
I don't know.
I'm looking at the track list here and I'm seeing like sample 420 with MOP. It's not a record that should have been on here. It doesn't make sense. It's very lackluster. You like Is that really what we're expecting from Ghost and MOP? Then we go to Curtis May featuring Styles P and Conway the Machine.
Now I think Conway's verse was slightly better, a little bit on this record. Just a little bit. I mean, they're both about the same, but as far as two artists that have been on the same record, and then I'm gonna ask you about Nas too, but like who had the better verse? But I think personally, I think that that track wasn't like. I mean, I'll say this, bro, and I'm just gonna get to it because like you know what I mean. I don't wanna spend too much time, but I would say Iron Man, Curtis May, and Love Me Anymore are like my top three joints from the record. I think Nas had a great verse on this record. I liked it a little bit more than uh, the Omerta song. So yeah, that's my take on Ghostface. And I mean really have too much more to say on that. So
Look, if I'm receiving Supreme Clientele 2, Supreme Clientele 1, and I hate that we're calling it 1 and 2 now, but the first Supreme Clientele being probably one of the most influential albums of that era and being that great, and for that re-jump starting Ghostface's career, and for it being as like when I say that influential, like I really mean songs like One, Mighty Healthy being that influential within hip hop. And for like people like Kanye West sampling Mighty Healthy, for people like Pusha T saying Supreme Clientele is one of his favorite albums ever, for us getting this body of work, please don't call it Supreme Clientele 2. Call it anything else you want. For the love of God, I wouldn't have cared if you called it Pretty Tony album 2 or fucking Apollo Kids 2 or anything else with the number 2. Don't call it Supreme Clientele 2 because my mindset going into a record like this that's called number 2 and your first one is fantastic, probably a 10 on 10, then I'm expecting some of your best work, if not your second best work. You know what I mean? And look, there is some good songs on here. Iron Man for me, yeah. Uh Georgie Porgy, I really enjoyed because of the sample on there and the soul. Uh,
yeah, I
but
mean it was cool, but
like
I
the
don't know. Some of the upbeat stuff was like a little bit like I know that was kind of the style, but it just didn't. I don't think it translated well, and especially again if you're saying that Ghost had repackaged all these songs and all that, you know. So yeah, I don't really have much else to like I said say about the record. But your three songs, so I imagine you like Iron Man.
for sure. Okay. I like Georgie Porgy, which I enjoy, and I actually really like Candyland. Now, maybe
Oh,
because
that one was a great one too. That one was a. I meant to say that was like a runner up for yeah. That was a crazy joint.
but before we get into the question you want to ask me, the trial, you have Raekwon, Method Man, and Jizz on there, and it sounds that bad. Where Jizz is giving us a verse, Jizz hasn't given us a verse in 15 years, and you put him on a song like that with Method Man as the judge, like really, like Buck 50 versus the trial, like Soul Thang featuring Sun God, Nem, Supreme Intelligence, and a bunch of other guys I've never heard about, unfortunately.
Well, two of them are his sons. So
Great. I'm not big on the song. I'm not big on the song. Look, I'm sorry,
wait,
but I'm
what? You're not big on what?
on the song.
Oh, on the song.
You
Okay.
said the sun. You thought I was saying the sun.
Yeah, I was like, wait. I mean, because I think his son's like, I think because I heard them on the like they did like a second generation Wu album or something like that, and
Yeah.
like it was kind of dope. I was like, yo, like, I mean, if this is like the future of where the legacy of Wu's going, I mean, like, you know, it's not in bad hands at all, really. So
I just look,
can't be mad at it.
I just expected more. There's songs on here that are a minute 50 seconds. There's too many skits on here that don't make sense. There's songs that are 2 minutes. Uh, like, nah. Look, I'm gonna listen to it probably again, and I'm gonna give it about a month before I go back into it. But again, look, I hear people that are saying this is amazing. Somebody came out, I think it was Cameron, and said that this is one of the best albums he's heard in the last 15 years. Look, maybe my ears are too negative, or maybe I'm just getting too
I'm not
old.
listening to anything that Cam says right now. Like, unless it's something funny and true, like really true. But that is a purely a Cam opinion. So,
So let's get into your question before we give our top three Ghostface albums.
I mean, Nas, who had the better verse? Like on the like, I mean, like, did he have the better verse on Ray's album or Ghost album?
Ghost album. You?
Yeah, same. I'll pick the same. And then my three Ghost albums would be Iron Man, Supreme Clientele, and this one's gonna throw you, I think, a little bit. But I think this album is like just as far as like an album that really was like helping me get back into like hip hop after kind of being lost in like the SoundCloud shit for a while, and like, some other stuff, like, kind of just like, I mean, obviously, like West Side and like, a bunch of other people. But this album, when I heard this record, I was like, yo, this is a crazy record. And it was the first time I ever heard Big Ghost. So the Lost Tapes is, man, that record, and it's stacked with features of, and I thought everybody did great. A lot of the Dark Man was on there. Razcast was on there. Saigon was on there. Like, there, I mean, they had the Buckingham Palace joint, like that, like, crazy record. Shout outs to that record. That
I
record's
respect
ill.
that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I could have, said a couple other joints, but like, as far as like, and I was also gonna say that I like Method Man more on Set the Tone than I do on this record. And I'm not trying to hate on the You My Friend song or whatever, because like, I get it, like, it's about, somebody, a brother that you care about, you know what I'm saying? So I can't even be mad at it. Um,
Makes sense.
definitely, but
Makes
definitely,
sense.
as far as Method Man being in my top five favorite rappers of all time, and like hearing just what was put forth, like, I definitely, now this is a record I would say that I would maybe expected a little bit more from, because I feel like I kept a low expectation of Raekwon, but like with Ghostface, like doing a sequel, I mean, we all can't have a Raekwon where, Cuban Links Part 1 and 2 is like immaculate, right? But like, just the lacking of features, the just like everything, like, no Redman verse, the hype DJ or whatever. Like, I mean, a good amount of the production was like just not where I think Ghost was at, and it's a shame because it feels like, I don't want to say like wasted, like wasted Ghostface bars, like, but it kind of felt like that, and it was like too much, like skits, and just like, you could have gave us a 10 to 15 track album, and I would have been happy, and that's what they do. They sometimes, people, artists, bands, whatever, they will put forth maybe more songs because, less chance of it, somebody saying, man, the whole album's weak. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But your top three Ghostface record
Um,
albums, sir.
I'm gonna go with fish scale. You know what? We've been going from one to three. Let me go from three to one. I'm gonna look. I want to put Iron Man on there, but Iron Man is top five. There's a record from Ghost that I always enjoy, and it's something that I keep going back to consistently all the time. And I want to shine a light on it quickly, and that's the Big Doe Rehab at number 3. And when that album came out, man, there was it was at a time in my life where I just started working in a record store. Uh, I kind of was discovering music so much, and when he put out this record in 2007, and I saw the cover, it really made me feel comfortable at the where I was in my life, because I was able to be like, Ghost is coming out with a new record. I'm listening to all this hardcore and metal, and I'm kind of like just kind of getting into a bit more, I don't want to say underground hip hop, but underground hip hop. And I'm discovering so many artists, but Ghostface is kind of like that person that I could latch on to, that can always make me feel really good, or make me feel a certain way about really enjoying hip hop. And you look at that fucking album, like Tony Siegel with fucking Beanie Siegel is on there, like Yolanda's House with Raekwon and Meth. Like, we celebrate, like, there's so many great tracks on here. Paisley Darts with Sun God, Raekwon, Method Man, Capadonna. Like, it's kind of like comfort food to me. The Big Doe Rehab is comfort food for Steven. That's basically what it is.
I'm gonna have to run that album back, and then Shaolin versus Wu Tang, because we're talking those albums up pretty heavy. So yeah, definitely have to tap into those a little later on.
Number 2, look, number 1 and number 2 kind of vary every time I listen to it. If I'm listening to Supreme Clientele, it's my number 1. If I'm listening to Fish Scale, it's my number 1. So 2 and 1 is going to be Fish Scale and Supreme Clientele. Supreme Clientele and Fish Scale. Like Fish Scale, like that Neo song on there. Like, I could sit here and tell you that Ghostface has some of the hardest songs in the world, but that song with Neo, Back Like That, is probably one of my favorite songs of all time. Like, that played at my wedding. Like,
Oh
I
yeah,
put that in the song when in the car when I'm in a mood or whatnot. Like, that's probably one of my go-to songs all the time. Now,
that's how I feel about Method Man and Genuine on the 421 album. Like, just something like super fly, super smooth. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I can relate to that. I can get down with that. That's
absolutely.
dope three. That's a dope three. That's a dope three.
So I have 2 more questions, and we're gonna do these ones quick because I really want to move on to the next record.
Sure.
In the time that we are now, 2025, August, Raekwon, Ghostface both dropped albums.
Crazy.
Do you find where they're at their career in terms of rapping ability, in terms of creating albums? And then we look at Method Man, and where Method Man is right now, and what he's given us the last couple of years, whether it's just been featurings. I haven't, like, I've kind of started to really realize that when Method Man came out and he started to do, he did Takal, he did Judgment Day, he did the Blackouts, he started doing all those records. And if you look at it, he only really has 4 solo records, but he used to be the main guy in Wu Tang, and he really stood out. But now we're, fast forward 2023, 2024, 2025. At this day and age, the dude is putting out some of his best songs, some of his best verses on featurings, that it really makes me anticipate the Meth album. And I gotta say, we used to say that he was the best, and then we changed our mind. I really think he's the best in terms of rapping right now, where he is many years later. You look at Raekwon, you look at Ghost, you look at Jizza, you look at all these guys, and you're like, yeah, they gave us some of the most spectacular albums in hip hop. But look at where they're at rapping. Kind of really went down a bit, which is fine. But Method Man really got better at what he's doing.
He's gotten a lot more clever and has a lot more wit, and I appreciate that he's not like swearing or cursing or anything, because I've been on that kick for a minute. I mean, I want to say probably the last thing that he did was the Meth Lab 3, and that might have been like, I want to say 5 years ago or something like that, maybe.
Couple, yeah.
So, um, And I mean, 421 the day after was the first rap album that I bought with my own money.
Wow.
I love that record so much. So like, I would say Method Man in terms of like what he's put down on these new records. I mean, it is what it is because you know what? I'll listen to another Method Man verse and I'll feel differently because like, you know, it can't all be, you know what I'm saying? And even if it's not, I still appreciate the fact that he's finding some clever way. Whatever song he's on, he finds a way to be a chameleon and just blend right into the track. So that's one thing I can always appreciate about him within his versatility. You know, so I don't know if that was really a question
Yeah.
or whatever we were going for, but yeah.
Perfect answer. And the last question is, can you give me a score for Ray and can you give me a score for Ghost for these two albums, The Emperor's New Clothes
Right.
and Supreme Clientele 2?
Right. I'm gonna give Ghost. I'm gonna give him a 7.5. Yeah, just good stuff, but you know, honestly, thinking about it now, I'm gonna give him a 7. Sorry, Tony Starks.
And
I'm gonna
Ray?
give it a 7. Uh, I'm gonna give the Chef an 8, man.
Wow.
You know, I
Wow.
think it was a solid record. I think there's more joints off of there that I can rock with. You know, I like Ray is really rapping on that record too. Compared to the Wild, like that's the thing. Like if people are complaining about this record, then they need to go listen to the Wild. And if you're a fan of that record, that's cool. But like he's had a wide gap, like as far as not releasing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost has been dropping. Like, you know, Ghost dropped last year, you know? And I think maybe Ghostface Killers was like there might have been something else or whatever in between that, but I think that was even a 5 year. So like we still at least got like something from him. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
Chef ain't dropped an album in 8 years.
Yeah.
So for that, I'm gonna throw him an 8. Good stuff. Um, I hope if he does another association or a part 2 or a part 3, maybe I don't know. That it'll definitely that maybe that's where my expectations will hope for more on that. Um,
Okay. I
yeah.
respect that.
So
Um,
what about you?
I'm
What
gonna
do you
go with right now a 7 for Raekwon, and I'm gonna go with a 6 for Ghostface.
I was gonna choose that, but I wanted to be a little bit more because I really like the way that like you know, and again like the way that Ghost was like approaching the album, even if it is old, bro. Like, kind of sucks like knowing that though. So
Yeah.
that's another thing. Like I think that's why I'm giving a higher score to the Chef, man. Because if it's like if this is just repackaged Tony Stark shit, it's like damn, bro, it's kind of weak.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's whack, bro.
Let's see.
Two things really quick, yo,
Yeah.
before we really like get into it. Uh, I don't think I've ever done an episode of this.
Never.
Okay, so this is the first time for two reasons. One, because I'm on here doing this, like, because we've done the wrestling, and we've done you know my own personal conversation and all that. Again, thank you for having me on the platform. I appreciate it, man.
Always. Family.
But yo, we're about to like really do like a first time.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
not only me just being the first time on here for the album reviews, but this is the first time we're ever doing like this has ever happened on the platform
Yeah.
like ever.
Yeah.
So
Like,
I'm double honored to be on for this one.
yeah.
So I'm gonna let you go ahead. But
So
yeah.
so if you ask me who my top favorite bands are, bands, I'm talking about bands, not rappers,
We
not
were hitting
artists.
this too. We were given a little bit of little hints, dropping like little things like along the way, like alluding to this too in a way.
Yeah. And
So,
you brought to my attention doing this, and I was like, you know what? When you talk about my top favorite bands right now of all time, this group is going to be in my top favorite bands of all time. And the last couple of years, I would say maybe 2 years, I've been really digging deep into their catalog and actually understanding it more as an adult. And you know what? We do hip hop, we do wrestling, but why not do a band that's been around for 30-year plus and putting out a record that, you know, kind of like brings me back to growing up when I was listening to them in high school and not really being able to grasp what I was listening to because I was young and I don't think I appreciated this style of music as much as I do now. But this band means a lot to me in terms of just progression, just as growth as artists, just at different times and being able to adapt themselves in just the climate of music. And if you listen to a band out when they start and you just follow, you expect a certain thing. You expect growth. You don't want to hear the same 10 records sounding the exact same because it gets redundant. Wrong or right?
yeah, and I definitely, you know, and maybe I have to go back and listen to it again. But their last record 5 years ago, I wasn't really a big fan of, and it sucks because like I feel like all the records that came before that were all amazing in their own way, and that was the one where I kind of was just a little bit disconnected on it, and maybe there was some disconnection as well on their end, but um,
So we're
I think
talking
they've
about
definitely yeah. Oh, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Yes.
we're talking about for the first time ever on the All Time Podcast with my special guest Jay. We are going to review the new Deftones, their 10th album, Deftones Private Music. Their 10th album. Okay. And I think it's very necessary for, you know what? If you're a fan of the podcast or not, or you just clicked because it said Deftones and you stayed with us this long and you got to listen to Ray, you got to listen to Ghost, and now you're like, hold on a second. I listened to hip hop, I listened to hardcore, I listened to metal, I listened to a bunch of stuff. I haven't listened to this new Deftones record. But you know what? They're talking about it. They're investing their time in it. And this is a hip hop wrestling podcast. Then fuck it. I'm going to press play. And you know what? If you're that person and you press play and you enjoy the music as much as I did with this record, like every single time I listen to this, and it's really only been out for a week and a bit, right? Like when you're gonna be listening to this
Less
this
than that.
episode,
Less
yeah,
than that. I mean, yeah, I guess about a week. Yeah.
right. Like I'm fucking enjoying this daily. I'm playing this 2, 3, 4 times a day, and I'm just
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
like
It's insane.
I'm really loving this record from the moment I pressed play. And the first song is the single, My Mind is a Mountain. And
Yeah.
I don't like singles. Everybody knows this about me. I really don't like singles, but Deftones is I was so intrigued. I was like, fuck it. What are they sounding like? Because they've sounded so differently within so much of the music that they put out. I'm like, what do they sound like in 2025 after really taking a really long time to put out an album? And that being Ohms, that was before this. You said 5 years ago? Was it 5 years
Yeah, there
ago?
was a couple joints on there. There was like Headless and Ceremony. Those were like, fun tracks and all that. But and when I heard My Mind is a Mountain, I kind of thought it was like maybe going in that same direction, but like it was definitely a slower, more like kind of brooding, kind of what you would expect from the new modern era of Deftones in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And as I pressed play and I really was able to intake the album as a whole, My Mind is a Mountain was just a fucking perfect way to start the album.
Yeah, and I will say when I saw the album, like in the track listing and the just all of like everything, I was like, leave it to them to just have like a very unique, interesting way of portraying, something out there, art that they've been working on the last, 5 years, and, you know, wondering when the next, Deftones record is. It's finally here, so I think they started off strong with, My Mind is a Mountain, and moving forward as the album goes.
Yeah, and this was recorded over about 2 years, 2 years and a half. They recorded it in Nashville, Joshua Tree, and also in Rick Rubin's Shangri-La studio. So they've been making this music over a 2.5 year process. So you kind of like, look, people grow within 2 years, 1 year. They go through so much. How does it, how is it going to really sound? And their last record was 5 years prior to that. But I find that the record gives me so much flow in it, and so much, like, it really feels like they recorded over the last month or 2 months. It just, there's so much on here that really has that connecting piece to it. Like My Mind is a Mountain into Lock Club. Lock Club sounds totally different. And it starts with basically him, like, I don't want to say spoken word, but he's like talking at the beginning of the track. And you don't really get that from Chino. Not to that extent.
Right.
So you invest a lot more within the, okay, where are they going to go next? My Mind is a Mountain is classic Deftones, right? From the last couple of years.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely textbook for sure. So that's why I wasn't even really that interested in the beginning anyway. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna wait until I hear more to really, formulate, an opinion. I mean, Lock Club's, a solid song. It's definitely, you know, on that same like in that same realm, but kind of branching out in the ways that they do. I feel like the way they evolve every record.
Yeah, and every record has, again, I'm going to repeat this. It's different music. There's so much of a flow to it that it kind of feels dreamy when I'm listening to it, where I could just literally close my eyes and just really, like, not fall asleep, but dream within this record. And it's a very dreamy record because I find that they've become so out there in terms of, it's kind of like you're riding a wave or you're in this loss.
That's their yo. I was gonna say this, but they have this theme about waves and just yeah. Like I hear it on all like their last records for the like going all the way back to like Sex Tape and those songs and probably even before that, bro. Like they just because I remember hearing it on it was I Think About You All the Time, and then which I feel like is like kind of like almost like their the Sex Tape song of the record. Like and there was another song I can't remember what it was, but they mentioned the like riding of the wave and all that, and it's just like it's interesting to like see that theme. But that I mean that's kind of what they are. They're like wavy metal. Like I feel like they've always been like wavy metal in a sense like that. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But just the riffs on here, just like it, like bombastic, thunderous type of riffs on here that kind of really like then gets into like a melodic flow. And I find Chino on here. Look, if you don't listen to Deftones, Chino is the frontman of the band. And if you listen to their earlier records, Chino's kind of beginning was always trying to find his voice,
yeah.
right? And I find that in the last couple of albums to this, he's really found a very dramatic, clear, melodic, aggressive, out there type of voice that I don't really hear in other artists, right? They have their own sound. Chino has his own sound.
I've definitely heard him do like a little bit of different vocal stuff on this record. That's pretty interesting. So, yeah,
And I find that Chino's voices on here always sound like, I don't want to say depressing, but like he's fighting his own battle within his own self.
It's dark and brooding. That's what they are. Like they're a very dark and like kind of brooding band in a way. Like you know, like this record though, in my opinion, bro, I think this is a very like this is a more upbeat record. This gave me vibes of their self-titled Saturday Night Wrist, a little bit of Diamond Eyes,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of Koi no Yokin, but definitely like Gore too. I was hearing some Gore vibes on this a little bit. So I think there's a little bit of everything of like the last 20 years of Deftones,
Yeah.
within this record, you know, uh,
I hear it.
or 22 years. I'm sorry, because
I hear
we're
it.
going all the way back to the self-titled. So
I hear it, and I just love how not over the top they made it, right? Sometimes bands could really go over the top and
I don't
try
feel like
and
they've ever been a band that's been over the top, though. I mean, like,
I think, yeah, maybe with
I
White.
think they're more out there than over the top. Because yeah, they just experiment a little bit more. I think if you want to say probably the most out there that they've ever been has been probably Gore.
Yeah, well, that was an album where a lot of like, and I'm sure we're gonna talk about this when you give me something after your top, but uh just getting back to the point, yeah, I've there was albums that kind of like really stood out more and were over the top. Like if you go around the fur and White Pony, like they
Yeah,
are,
I mean that's the early stuff, but yeah, I hear you though.
and I find that they never really found themselves until Diamond Eyes, and then they had to kind of like work within the sound of Diamond Eyes because it kind of really changed drastically. Like if you're putting two albums like White Pony and Diamond Eyes up against each other, but then within the Diamond Eyes, they gave you Gore, right? And not a lot of people like the record Gore because it's more of a backseat type of record, right? It's kind of like, okay, wait, is this really Deftones?
Yeah, it's a very different record, but I don't want to spend too much time on it because then we're gonna dive off. But
But I'm gonna, and we'll get to just your thoughts on the record itself, but like just the flow of how each song gets into one another and how Milk of Madonna, which I didn't like as a single, really
yeah,
flowed perfectly within where it was structured within the album. And just, dude, in like after Locked Up, you get, I can't even pronounce this. It's
yeah, I know.
Estadisis.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Estad
That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Estadisis is just such a brilliant melodic, structured so differently. And I love how you could really, you get your chorus, quote unquote chorus. I hate calling it chorus, but like where Chino's vocals just really drag you in to the music and you really feel what he's trying to portray on the album. And then you get Souvenir after Infinite Source. Souvenir, man, is where the album really breaks off for me and really kind of leaves me on a cliffhanger to where the rest of the album I'm just floating throughout the air. If that really makes sense, because I think of you all the time that you mentioned before, man. That's just a brilliant record,
Yeah, that's the shit you get stoned to.
right? And
You know,
like Cut
that's the
Hands,
weed. That's the weed of Deftones right
yeah,
there. That song, I would say.
yeah, spacey, dreamy, very like out there.
Shoegaze, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm talking to you because you know Deftones, but that shoegaze sound of where Chino's vocals are really background, and it's almost like he's just humming, and you can't really understand what he's saying, but the music really overpowers so much of it. You get that almost in the second half of the record.
The evolution of that style and how he's done that, like throughout all their records, is like nuts. Like it's really it's interesting to see that growth if you know if you're really like tapped into like their music, you know. So
Yeah. And look, Metal Dream, Departing the Body was a fantastic way. And just to touch on Departing the Body real quick, that voice at the beginning of Departing the Body kind of almost, I know it's Chino. If I'm wrong, I'm terribly sorry, but it almost sounds like if Tom Waits started the record.
it reminds me of a Canadian band that I used to listen to by the name of the Contortionist.
Oh wow.
Like
Okay.
when they were doing some stuff like that, doing the weird kind of voices and like something with the synth or whatever. So very cool track. Uh, I was gonna say I wasn't really super crazy about Milk of the Madonna when it came out, but like because it was very repetitive, and I felt like it didn't like the song didn't need to be that long. It could have like you know been cut maybe about 30-45 seconds, like and been a little bit more you know. But listening to it within the album, like you said, it definitely fit there. Now I feel like you left out a certain song because it wasn't mentioned.
Yeah, I know. And the reason why I did that is because I knew we spoke about this prior to this episode, and it was a track that you wanted to talk about. So I left it for you.
No, I mean like I mean I think the standout track on that and it's I mean I almost want to say not necessarily getting into my top three, but getting into my top three of the album. I would say, man, number three would be CXZ. Yo, CXZ is a great song. That was another song you missed on the record. That's a sleeper of a track. I'll
It's
say
great.
that.
It's after Souvenir.
Yeah, I love that. I love that song. Uh, I would say number two would be Infinite Source, just because that hook is very, just very catchy. And then the number one standout track is Cut Hands because it feels like just like a bit of a doom and gloom kind of vibe, but more like just like slow groove and a head bob, like just and just Chino sounds really different on that on that hook, that chorus. Like I've never heard him sound like that, and it's obviously definitely more of a flow. There's like kind of this swaying kind of vibe to it, you know, like it's crazy. Like it makes me feel like damn, I want to hear like the some of the heavier stuff like, you know, I mean cuz Diamond Eyes was like very like just man, there was just like a punch to that record. So I feel like this is almost kind of like a Diamond Eyes kind of like vibe.
Yeah.
Like or you know, I mean, and the whole record I kind of feel like that in a way. But then again, I hear the elements of like Saturday Night Wrist and a little of like the self-titled and you know maybe some Koi no Yokin, but definitely Diamond Eyes, definitely Saturday Night Wrist, definitely some gore vibes on here on there too. I would say of the three records, like they kind of fit the most of that. But yeah, Cut Hands is like I feel like you could just drown in that song. Like it's just like you could just get lost in it. Like you
That's
know,
their
and
music.
Chino doesn't sound like that on like any other record. He definitely doesn't. I don't feel like he delivers that maybe that type of energy on Ohms.
No,
You know,
because he's really experimenting with his voice on here. Like he really is like locked up and uh cut hands like you mentioned. Even on like Departing the Body, and I think about you all the time. It's more of like it kind of sounds like more of a singer songwriter type of vibe within Chino and how he's trying to express himself within his
maybe
melodic
like
voice.
a Team Sleep vibe or something like that. You
Yes.
know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
I could dig that. I could dig that. Um, yeah, I mean those are my three favorites of the record and fun fact, I actually met Chino when he was touring with Crosses for the first time in 2014 on their first record. That was like, I could definitely hear some of that Crosses vibe that he brings into this record for like Departing the Body and like, some of the other tracks that are experimental, you know what I mean? Like, and who
Yeah.
knows, like, maybe these could be demos from just something that he was writing, something that could have been for Crosses that he brought to the table for Deftones. Not trying to speculate too much, but I mean, and this is an upbeat record, dude. This is a very upbeat record, and I like, as much as I like the kind of doom and gloom per se, like the brooding doom and gloom of Deftones, you know, it's nice to hear these like upbeat kind of catchy vibes like from them, and they're still able to experiment and dip in and out of these pockets of, just like I said, being like the waviest metal band probably ever. So, and I mean, for 10 albums, 30 years of this band existing, I mean, it's insane, dude. Like, to think about. So,
It really is. And they've
yeah,
grown so much as a band. It's just like
yeah,
incredible. You like, it takes time for you to really find the sound that you're comfortable with, but
yeah,
they've kind of found it, but they're still experimenting with that sound to really push, the needle forward, or just push themselves forward. Because 10 records is 10 records. Like, but like on here, to your point, like, we speak about Chino, but look at like just the guitar riffs, and
yeah.
just look at
Stephen
like
Carpenter's a nut, man.
the drumming, the keyboards on here. Because don't
Yeah,
forget, there's
yeah,
keys on here. Like, that's the great thing about the Deftones, is they have so much different instrumentations that we kind of look at a metal band as to drums, bass, guitar, vocals, or whatnot. But when a band really puts in something different, you kind of want to see how they're able to do that. And Deftones has really perfected that within their sound on here.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
brilliant.
wasn't sure what to expect off of this record, so um, but and I guess I'll get my three albums out of the way if it isn't already obvious. Um, I love Around the Fur.
Number three.
Like, yeah, I'll put that. I'll probably put that at number three. Yeah, Around the Fur. Lotion's like, it's such a heavy track. It's probably my favorite off of that. And then I would say number two would be Diamond Eyes and Command Control, Beauty School. You've seen the Butcher, man. There's just like so many tracks off of that. Risk, Sex Tape, 976 Evil. Like, just that whole record is just bonkers, nuts. Like, and that's like that is like the Deftones. Like, that is such a peak moment in time for them, because like that's when they've really like changed their sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they were not like that on Saturday Night Wrist at all. Like, Saturday Night Wrist was very like upbeat, like crazy, and to think that they almost like called it quits around that time too.
Yeah.
Like, same time as System of a Down. Like, so it's like I'm glad they figured out whatever, and unfortunately, quitting and then, losing, Chai, rest in peace, like, terrible. Like, terrible, man. Like, the fact that they were able to bounce back to make Diamond Eyes is like insane. So I gotta put that record. But obviously Gore is my number one. If it, we've talked about it. It's just like, there's just something about that record, man. It's like, just, it's so haunting. Like, it's a haunting record. Like, it just, there's so much different, like Acid Hologram is just such a weird song, dude. Geometric Headdress, such a weird song, but it's like, it works. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think to me that's probably their most experimental record, and Hearts and Wires is my absolute favorite Deftones song. That intro is just like, it feels like I'm discovering a new planet within like a wormhole or something like that within time and space. Like it's just something about it. And
Mhm.
even he said like Stephen Carpenter, their guitarist, was like that song specifically was like he was inspired by like John Carpenter films and like all that, like serial killer like films and all that. So like again, a very haunting record. And again, they're most experimental. I think yeah, I mean, I don't even know what else to say about it. It's just if you don't like it, then I don't know. I don't want to say I don't like you, but I don't like you. You anyway. But yeah, those are my three. Those are my three. And oh, a score for the Deftones record. I would give it an 8. The private music. So
Great.
that's where I'm at with it.
Uh,
To you.
so I'm gonna go with my favorite tracks from private music. I'm probably gonna go with Souvenir, number 3. I love that record. I just love how there's such balance in that record, and I love how the end, because it's a 6-minute record, and how the end really kind of like puts you into what they're gonna give you next with CXZ, and
Yeah.
CXZ is actually my second favorite on here. And just how like it brings you into that. It's like, hey, here's part 2 of where the record stands, giving you a different light. And I love that when bands are able to do that, because there's only 11 songs on here, and I kind of like puts you like into, okay, here we go. So yeah, Souvenir 3, CXZ. Just I love the musicality in that song. I love Chino in that song. I love how he extends his vocals within that record. It just it this That's why I love Deftones, and that's why it kind of reminds me, not too much, but in terms of vocals, why I love the self-titled so much.
Oh yeah. I was listening to Needles and Pins like before we were getting on and just like or when girls telephone boys or
Mental
boys
song.
telephone girls, whatever. I think it's when girls telephone boys, but um that yeah, great album by the way. But yeah.
And number 1 is gonna be, I wanna put Estadisis. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going with Estadisis. I just love that record.
Well, what? Okay, well, what's your other record you were gonna put there then?
I think about you all the time.
Really? Okay. Wow. All right. Switching it up. I would have thought we would have had some similarities. Well, I mean, well, I guess CXZ was a was a
Yeah.
was a great joint. Uh, Metal Dream. I feel like Metal Dream hasn't been getting a little bit of love, but yeah, cool song.
Before I give you my top 3 albums, the thing with a record like this is that that's my top 3 now, and I'm telling you now, we'll talk next week, and it'll be totally different top 3.
It could be my top 3 next
Exactly.
week.
Exactly.
Love it.
My top 3 albums from Deftones, I'm gonna go with White Pony at number 3, because I just remember high school when that came out, and back to school, and just fucking
Yo,
Passenger.
Yo, so today, really quickly, funny enough, Exhibit was on Instagram and he made a post promoting the new Deftones record, but he was jamming his favorite song, which is Back to School.
Well,
So shout
fuck.
outs to Exhibit for being one of the cool rappers who's always been down with like the metal bands, and his new record is actually pretty dope, not
Always.
gonna lie. So
Always.
yeah,
Uh,
but
like just Digital Bath, Street
yeah,
Carp, Passenger. Like we want this to be number 1. It's not for me, because I
yeah,
love just growth in Deftones, but just that record, like Passenger is probably my favorite Deftones track, just because of how that song just constructs itself within itself.
yeah.
Uh, but that's why I love Deftones. Number 2 is a self-titled, for fuck's sake. the self-title is such a brilliant record by them, to where every single song on here, there's no skip. Like I want to keep it as simple as there's just no skip, but this is where they were kind of more experimenting with their sound and their vocals, and where it was a lot more shoegaze, where
Yeah.
Chino was
2000s Deftone was like another level. Like, and then we weren't even prepared for 2010s Deftones, but
no.
2000s Deftones was like they were finding a way to kind of like get together with a lot of other bands, like the Taste of Chaos tour, with all the like the Used and like all those like kind of post-hardcore
Well,
screamo bands,
if my
So that
dad
was a really interesting time for them.
well, if my dad would have let me, I was supposed to go watch them play at the Verdun Auditorium here. Was it Verdun? Anyways, it was Verdun Auditorium, where Thrice and Thursday opened up for them, and it was on that tour. So
Yeah. Yeah, there was like Thrice was on there. Man, there was like some other like I want to say My Chemical Romance was on there, and like
so many bands that they
Bleed the
played with.
Dream was on there or something like that. Yeah, bunch of cool bands, and the fact that they were able to kind of mesh and fit in with like bands like that, or like Glassjaw, and like like and mind you, all these bands are like looking up to Deftones.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Like
bands like
playing the band's
Glassjaw.
Warped Tour, you know, all that. So I
You
think it.
you want to talk about influence from Deftones? Glassjaw is the perfect example.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely, dude. Like,
Sorry to cut you
but
off.
I also think Ross Robinson too. Like, just working with Deftones. Like, it's like that. Like Glassjaw probably went to them and were like, we want to make our own Adrenaline,
Yeah.
record, and and that's kind of like what they did. But man, that self-titled record, like I remember hearing Hexagram and just like thinking like, man, this is like I remember watching the video on Headbangers Ball when they like revitalized it, like, and that's more of my time of Headbangers Ball, but like because everybody talks about the '90s one, and I'm like, no, I'm talking about the 2000s one.
Such a great headbangers ball. Oof.
Dude, there was like so many great bands in there, and like Deftones was like one of those bands. Like I remember seeing Hexagram from that album like on MTV, and I was like, damn, like this is like fun, like, and just very like intense, and it's not like the other Deftones
Yeah.
like stuff that I've heard, so yeah, very dope record. Love that that's your number two. But what is your number one, sir?
It's gonna be Diamond Eyes.
Really?
Diamond Eyes made me fall back in love years later with Deftones.
Pivotal point for Deftones. Like I said, pivotal point.
Not one bad track.
Doesn't surprise me.
No, and I kind of gives me the balance of what I love in music, whether it kind of almost sounds sometimes that era, like that year, sorry, not that era. Oh yeah, that era,
Yeah, I
2010s.
mean, because that's the start of like again 2010s Deftones. Like they like I mean because they did Koi no Yokin, and then they did Gore, and
Yeah.
So
It
it's
was
almost like,
rebranding. Sorry, it was
yeah.
rebranding.
Yeah, so they've almost given us 3 albums like a decade.
Yeah.
Except for like the '90s, they only gave us like 2 records. But I mean, still 2 of the best records that you could give. As far as Deftones in the '90s, so can't even be mad at it. But I will say, like, midway into the 20s now, I really hope that maybe they'll feel inspired to not have such a gap. Maybe like we'll hear another Deftones record in like 2 years or 3 years or something. One can only hope. But I mean, I think this will be a talk of a record for like the next year and a half, 2 years for sure.
Yeah, and the great thing about a band like this is that you just learn so much within the music that they give you, right? It's not just here, listen, shelve it, and never go back to it. Private music, is something that we're gonna go back to because there's a lot more to discover. I'm really thinking about those tracks again and kind of like trying to understand where they were going with this, but I still can't figure it out, if that makes sense. As to like when I first heard Diamond Eyes, wasn't able to understand it. When I first heard the self-titled, I wasn't able to understand it. and I'm still discovering Deftones, even being a fan since high school, just rediscovering all their albums and really appreciating it. And I really want to end off with this, and then I'll give my score, but really appreciating the musicality of that band.
Yeah, and they are definitely that band. I think they found a way to revitalize themselves in a new way. Because, like I said, I think the Ohms record, and maybe I have to listen to it again, but I think it was just very kind of more like dark and moody, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To me, like, again, like, I just I don't know. Again, I have to listen to it, but I feel like it's like one of these things is not like the other. Like, it's a weird. To me, I look at that album as like a weird pit stop for Deftones to get to this record, Private Music, which is, again, when I saw the album cover, the title, the track list, I was like, leave it to Deftones to be, very unique. I think this is their most unique, like, I would say, since Gore and like Koi no Yokin and stuff like that. Like, with getting back to interesting like song titles and like all of that. Like, I like, I didn't feel that. Like, it was definitely interesting song titles with Ohms, but with this record, it's like, it's just so different, man. It's an upbeat record. It seems like a revitalized Deftones. Like, maybe it took a lot out of them to do the Ohms record, and then they just being where they're at in life, and getting to this point. So hopefully it pumps them up to want to keep maybe doing more music, and at a more, like, I don't want to say rapid pace, but like hopefully we don't have to wait another 5 years for another Deftones record. But if we do, and it sounds something like the evolution of what it's going to, then I guess, can we really be that mad?
No,
So, yeah,
no. I'm gonna give this one an 8. I'm staying with what you said, 8th,
yeah.
and I have a feeling that it'll probably go to an 8.5 or a 9 in the next couple of months, maybe even 6 months. Revisit this towards the end of the year and just really see where it sits. But right now, man, it's heavy, heavy, heavy rotation, and they're in my top 5 favorite bands of all time. So
And I'm sorry, but who are your top five bands?
we're really getting into this now.
No, I'm just asking you for something quick. We don't have to get into it.
Oh,
Maybe
it's
that's for another episode, folks.
but I'll give it to you real quick. Do you want to hear it, or are we doing another
Yeah,
episode?
yeah, yeah.
Because I
Go
think
ahead,
we
go
should.
ahead, go ahead.
It's fucking weird. Queens of the Stone Age, Oasis, Deftones, Rancid, and why the hell am I having a memory blank right now? Fuck it, I'm giving 4. I can't remember my 5th one. I'm looking around my room like to see.
We'll say remembering never,
Probably not. I
or
can't figure
despised
out.
icon. I don't know.
You know what? We're gonna do an episode in the future of top 5 favorite bands and why and how they changed music for us. How about that? I'll keep that episode in the tuck.
Yours is more diverse. I'll say that than mine, because mine's just basic, like Slipknot, Biscuit, Linkin Park. I don't know, maybe like Pink Floyd or Black Sabbath, and like, I don't even I don't know, Seven Dust. I don't know, all new metal, all new metal stuff. So
Oh,
I'm not that hard of a read when it comes to bands and whatnot, but
I
very
just
more diverse than me. So I think at one point Deftones used to be in there, but yeah. So I mean, overall, look, for artists that have been around for 30 plus years, dropping all these new albums. I mean, I think wholeheartedly, I think this is the best that we can get, and I'm not mad about it. Um, Feel a little bad for Ghost, but you know, but I really commend all these artists, man. Like, it's really wonderful that bands that we grew up on, and artists and MCs, like, they're still able to do new music. Hopefully Scarface will get out of his mentality of not wanting to do new music, and we'll get a new album from him,
I hope
you know, or
would be
something.
amazing.
You know what I mean? I'm one of those people that I'm interested to hear the evolution and the growth of what my favorite artist can do, even if it is disappointing. to hear it, and it's not the outcome that or the expectations that I would have liked it to be. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still keeping an open mind. Deftones delivered. The Chef is delivered. We'll see about the next Ghostface record, or I'll just listen to Set the Tone, or something like that. But yeah, man, thank you for
Always.
a double first. Me being on the review and the first rock album, and hopefully many more records to do in the future.
Absolutely. It's a fucking pleasure to always have you on here. And I wouldn't want to do this Deftones review with anybody else. And you know what? I didn't even make this episode. You're the one who made this episode. So give yourself fucking credit. And I'm gonna clap for you real quick. I'm gonna not crap, but clap for you real quick. Look, your family, I appreciate you. I love having you on, man. You're my brother. And you know what? We'll keep doing this. So thank you very much for the people who are just, this is your first one. You clicked on it just because it said Deftones, or just because it said Raekwon, or just because it said Ghostface. We'll listen to all the projects. Get yourself.
Who's doing this right now? Who's reviewing artists 30 years later? You know what I'm saying? Dropping new records. Raekwon, Ghostface, Deftones. Like, who's doing this? I don't know anybody who's doing this. We might as well be the tag champs of this shit.
I think we are. And you know what? If people don't like it, well, hey, just click next. But if you haven't liked and subscribed, because we're the first two doing this, like and subscribe.
Right there. Up there. Right there. Hit the like and subscribe. And right there.
And all that jazz. Hey, I appreciate you. And for everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back soon. Peace.